Networking and marketing made simple is for you, the business owner who has a product, a service, or a message that you believe in. My name is Scott Aaron, and each week we'll take a behind-the-scenes look into the real-world marketing and networking tactics and strategies for getting what you have in front of you to a lot more people. Thanks for spending time with me, and now let's get started. Hey, everybody, and welcome back to another episode of Networking and Marketing Made Simple. Super excited about today's episode. As you all know, I love doing these interviews, and I know you love listening to them. But when it's a client, but also a friend of mine that I can get on here to share their story, it makes the episode that much more powerful for you all to hear because, again, I've been under the kimono, so to speak, of this individual's business, helping him on LinkedIn. But what he's doing is just so different. And you guys have all heard me talk about before being a salmon in a world of fish. And this individual fits right into that category because he is disrupting the industry. He's changing the way things are done in a very systematized, organic, and truly meaningful way. So with that being said, Dan Kopp, welcome to today's episode.
Well, I appreciate being here. This is a great experience and a great opportunity. I appreciate it.
Absolutely. So Dan, tell the audience a little bit about what it is that you're doing currently, just from like a foundational level, but in a more powerful way. What the one thing that my audience always loves to know is what that person's catalytic moment was that kind of took them down the path that they're currently on within entrepreneurship and business ownership. And what was that for you?
Well, throughout my career in the Army, then in public education, and now in private business, I realized that my passion is helping other leaders. So I now am harnessing my passion and helping leaders, whether it's through coaching, mentoring, or with their compensation systems through a lens of attracting and retaining great people. So I'm here to serve, I'm here to help other leaders, and I just absolutely love it. And I get satisfaction when I see those with whom I've worked grow, make an impact on their organizations, become the leaders they need to be, that type of thing.
I love that. And, for me, obviously, I have a background in health and wellness and fitness. And, what I learned in that industry is consistency, dedication, showing up each and every day, being present, being a solution-oriented person. What would you say with your background, in the armed forces and serving the way that you did? What did you learn from a personal standpoint from that experience that has allowed you to take those lessons and apply them to what you're doing professionally now?
There is a whole lot that I learned in the Army. Some people go through a maturation process up through age 18 and they're sort of locked into who they are. A lot of who I am today are based on life experiences I had as an 18-year-old through a 25-year-old. And the military was great. I really learned to control myself, control situations, control emotions, and address things that need to be addressed. A lot of people can tell others what they want to hear. I have perfected the skill set of telling people what they need to hear. And I think that really came out, the foundation was laid when I was in the Army as a military police officer dealing with sensitive issues at times where I had to address people in a respectful, appropriate manner, but also tell them the things that they needed to hear. And that's really paid dividends in my subsequent two careers, first in schools and now in business.
And, sometimes those difficult conversations spur amazing things in our business because, people can either shy away from them and, take the avenue of the ostrich effect, which is just burying their head in the sand, or you take things head on. Life is not a straight line. There's going to be difficult decisions that need to be made. There's going to be different and difficult conversations that need to be had. And it's those learning lessons that when you come out on the other side of it better and understanding exactly how you got on the other side of it, it can be applicable to anything that you do. So in being, obviously, after your time as a military police officer and then transitioning into the education system, what was it that drew you to not only being a part of the education system, but still being tied to it in some way, shape, or form with what you're doing now?
It comes down to just helping others. Working in schools was a thing I did for 20 years. I can walk the walk, talk the talk type of thing. And I can interact with other district leaders, executive level positions in those school districts, and I can relate to what they're going through. I can help them through the situations. So it's very easy for my business approach to engage with school leaders because I've been there, done that type of thing. Because we have those experiences, my partners and I have those experiences in leading school districts, we've also been able to transfer those skills into the business sector and into helping private and nonprofit clients as well, because leadership skills are transferable. And that's what a lot of my clients, the people I mentor and the people I coach, they don't understand. They've got skill sets and experiences behind them that they can't understand how those skill sets are transferable to a new situation. And it's not about knowing the ABCs or XYZ of a situation in a 3-step process. It's about what have I done before I've got soft skills that I can address what's in front of me now. And I have done that before, I can do it again. It's just a different situation. And that's what I love about working in school still, working with our school clients, but also working in business. Because at the end of the day, leadership is leadership, and how you lead is different than how I'm going to lead. And that's valuable and important to understand that.
So leadership is one of those buzzwords that people tend to hear all the time. And sometimes being a leader or the leadership title as it stands can get diluted with everything that's going on with social media, and people start to wonder, what does it take to be a great leader? And, how do I enhance my leadership skills? For the person that's listening to this, that is or has the intention of wanting to be in a leadership type position, what's your best advice for that individual to hone those necessary leadership skills that will make them a great leader, not just for those that they are leading, but obviously they have to lead themselves first? So what is something they can do?
That I've got 2 great suggestions. First of all, create a professional network. The learning that I've encountered with my contemporaries in the military, in public education, now in business, and I continue to foster those relationships, even through a mentoring or coaching lens. Those I mentor and coach, I'm learning from those people as much as they're learning from me, hopefully anyway. So create a network, harness the power of that network. Despite the situation that's in front of you, I guarantee you others have encountered similar situations. And I'm not suggesting that others have the answers, but when you engage your network, you're going to get points of view that you may not otherwise have considered, and you're going to sharpen all the tools in your toolbox. So that's huge. And the other thing that really helped me, this sounds odd, I'm in my 40s and I went through a maturation process, and it was because a friend of mine who was a coworker at the time, and now he's my business partner, Mike Jewick, he challenged me to understand why I was wired the way I am. So many adults can articulate who they are as a person. If they think about their leadership skill sets, they can probably think about their leadership skills and identify who they are, how they lead, that type of thing. It's a rare person who can get past that and has consciously thought about the why behind their personal values and their leadership tenets. When you figure out the why behind all your values and your tenets, you're going to know yourself better, and you're going to be able to use your skill sets better because you know why you're acting the way you do. So those are 2 huge things that I wish I had known when I was in my 20s, that to allow me to accelerate my growth in everything I was doing, to include leadership. The networking and understand why are you wired the way you are. Those are huge.
So, with the lessons that you learned in the Army, obviously that they transferred over to, everything that you've done personally and professionally. Were there certain things being an educational professional that didn't transfer, where you had to learn a new skill set or new ways of communication or leadership that not had you rethink some of the things that you learned, but maybe enhance them in a different way that, just took you to a different level, which allowed you to do what you're doing now?
That's a good question. I don't think there's anything that I did in the Army, and I served for 8.5 years active. I did a year in the Guard after that. I don't think there's anything that I did then that couldn't be transferred to other whether it's entrepreneurial, working for somebody and working on your own, whatever the case may be. I actually had this discussion with the leaders of the Wisconsin Chamber of Commerce, the Wisconsin Veterans Chamber of Commerce, a couple of weeks ago. And like somebody who is in the infantry in the Army comes out, and their job was in essence to carry a gun and protect our nation and that type of thing. I don't see too many civilian jobs posting for those specific things. But when you think about the ability to communicate, the ability to lead a team, lead a small team, collaborate, be a teammate, all those soft skills that come with being in the Army, whether it's infantry, military, police, engineer, whatever the case may be, those are the skill sets that I really focused on when I started implementing, engaging life outside of the Army and implementing leadership. And those soft skills and the things you learned and the ideas you encountered and the other leaders you encountered, those all informed everything I did moving forward. I don't think I consciously deleted any skill set. Some are better now. A lot of people assume autocratic leadership was prevalent in the Army. Not at all the case. There's a time for autocratic leadership, but it's not prevalent in the Army. It's not prevalent in business. It's not prevalent in education. Having said that, there are people who lead with an autocratic lens. It's not healthy. You're doing yourself and your organization a disservice. It's leadership is personal to everybody, and everything you've experienced in your life up to this point is informing who you are right now, and you've got skills that you can hone and lead with.
Now, again, you spent 2 decades in the education profession. What do you feel was the moment for you that, not that you were ready to quote unquote pack it in and do something else, but what spurred the thoughts that you had to then come up with the concept of your company Dynamico that really turned on that entrepreneurial light for you, that had you move into this different direction where you ended up getting out of the education industry from, I would say, an employee standpoint, but now being more of a coach, consultant, business owner outside of it that still impacts that type of industry in a positive way?
Wow. When I became a superintendent of a school district, I had 2 colleagues ask me, one of whom I mentioned him earlier, Mike, my partner, asked me, well, you just reached your goal. You reached your career goal. Now what? Like literally it was a month into being a superintendent. I said, like, dude, come on. I just started. Stop, leave me alone. And another coworker said the same thing to me a month later. And that really made me stop and think, like, what is next? I don't know. But over the years, I really became in tune with attributing my growth back to encountering Mike in a previous job and how he challenged me on a daily basis to learn who I was and why I was. It really kept the wheels spinning about what the future could look like. And then fast forward to 2018, Mike and another partner, Dave Betts and I, the 3 of us created a company, and that was the beginning of Dynamico. And it comes down to, we exist to help other leaders, whether it's through our compensation software that's been, you mentioned the word disruptive. It's disrupting the idea of compensation. We've been called revolutionary. It's helping leaders of organizations and companies turn their organizations around or enhance the great things they're already doing. It simplifies their work. It takes the headache of management and compensation off their shoulders. so they can focus on other things that are perhaps more important than a management of a spreadsheet, for crying out loud. And it allows them to lead. And then with our coaching and clients we mentor, it's about harnessing their skill sets. It's not about teaching them how to lead like me, because that's impossible. It's about identifying what's important to them, what their values are, why they have those values, and what skill sets are prominent when they're just acting and reacting on a daily basis. And then let's identify them and hone them and sharpen all the tools. At times it might be autocratic, at times it may be servant in nature, at times it may be coaching in nature. When it comes to leadership, autocratic comes to mind, like, all right, we've got an emergency. I don't have time to be a democratic leader when there's an emergency. I'm going to turn on autocratic mode, right? But it's about identifying individual characteristics, because we've all got great skill sets, and just some don't know that they have them, and they don't know how to harness them or grow them. And that's what we love doing.
Do you feel there was an advantage in your mind getting to, in the education industry? I mean, you reached the pinnacle of the education system at a very, very young age. I mean, there are people that, I mean, how old were you when you became superintendent?
Early 40s.
So, I mean, again, there's people that teach for 25, 30 years and never really go past that. And obviously you were on a different track. Do you think hitting that peak of your professional career in that respect helped you in a way, because you were still in that growth mindset? You weren't wanting to just settle in and, say, this is it. Do you feel that being that young and hitting that specific of a professional goal enabled you to start thinking bigger again, and what can I do outside of this?
Yeah, absolutely. And I think looking back, every experience I've had as an adult has prepared me for what I'm doing right this second. And I felt that when I was a teacher. I taught for 5 years, then I was a principal for 5 years. And there are people who do that now, but I know that my path to being a superintendent was accelerated based on my experience in the Army. And it didn't make me better than anybody else. It just made me more informed. I had more experiences. I had a skill set that I was able to use. Plus, I encountered Mike, who I've referenced a couple times now, when I was a principal, and he really challenged me to go deeper inside and understand why I'm wired like I am. And those two things, my previous military experience and Mike helping me through that process in my early 40s, really changed who I was and made me understand who I was and why I was that person. And just transferring those into, all right, I'm here, now I'm a superintendent, what's next? It took me years to figure out what's next. I encountered my two partners, love them, and we've got a great situation now. And somebody asked me a month ago, do you miss working in a school where you had an impact on the kids? Yes, I do. But the question went deep and said, do you miss having an impact? Wow. I hadn't thought of it that way. I guarantee you now I'm having more of an impact now than I ever have, because I'm seeing the fruits of my labor come to life in my clients, in their organizations. They're impacting change. They're impacting their organizations, taking them to the next level. And that gives me great satisfaction. And nobody cares who their superintendent was at 10-year reunion. Nobody cares. But when I saw my teachers that I've mentored or hired in the past, or principals with whom I've worked and I've hired and mentored, and I see them making impacts, and now I see my clients making impacts, that is huge to me. And that's my legacy. And that's what I want to be known for.
Do you want to hear something funny? The only reason why I knew who the superintendent was of my school district is because I was dating his daughter. It was the only reason. No, I knew who because I mean, the principal of your school when you go there, but no one knows who the superintendent of the school district. But I happened to date his daughter when I was in high school. So that is the only way that I knew who it was. So
when I was a kid, I knew ours because he was my best friend's dad. So I knew him. And I always gave him like, dude, did you use your snowmobile on the way to work this morning to realize the roads were passable? I always remember telling him that.
Oh, I was always the first one to know because again, we, you're in Wisconsin. I was in Philly in the PA suburbs. So we did get a lot of snow, but you know who the first one to get the phone call was? There was a snow day. There was no listening to the radio to see if our number was called to see if school was closed. I would just have my phone ring and she would say, no school today. You don't have to go. So it was one of the perks, I guess.
Let's leave it at that.
Yeah, leave it at that. So I don't mean this to be a loaded question, but I would love your take on this. So, again, being in the education system for 20 years, but outside of it now as an entrepreneurial business owner, do you feel with where business is today, it's so different than it was 20 years ago? Do you feel in the education system that we have, middle school, high school, as kids grow up, there should be a little bit more business education, entrepreneurship, business ownership type classes to support them for those that maybe don't want to go down the traditional path of just getting a job?
Yeah. Society's changed years ago, 20, 30 years ago. If you weren't going to a 4-year school after graduation, then you were wrong. And that's slowly changing because there are great 2-year opportunities out there at your local tech colleges, whatever. But then you throw in you go a step further and all of a sudden we have all these entrepreneurial ideas and opportunities out there. And absolutely, I think the broader spectrum of ideas and options we can present our kids in the K-12 environment, the better off society is going to be. It's not all about getting a 4-year degree. And don't get me wrong, I'm not trying to discourage anybody from getting one, but it's not about a 4-year degree. Maybe it's not about a 2-year degree. And I am a firm, staunch supporter in some type of experience after high school that allows you to mature, grow, discover, make decisions. And I don't want to advocate for the Army. I don't want to advocate for the Peace Corps, going to work in whatever. Do something, because as an 18-year-old trying to decide what you want to do for the rest of your life and then go to college the following year and do it, odds are pretty good. Most people aren't ready to make that decision. So go experience life. I did that. I went in the Army. I was much better suited to have success when I went to the university after the Army than I would have had I gone straight from high school to college, because I know I was burnt. That's why I went in the Army. I was burnt out of high school. Like I sort of breezed through high school, it was easy, but it didn't mean I liked it. And I just wanted to avoid it. Army was an easy way to not have to worry about my future.
I did the opposite. I actually did all the wrong experiences while going right to college, and that attributed to not having a great GPA and having to get pulled out. But my real world experience, obviously people know my story. My father ended up getting incarcerated for 2.5 years for insurance fraud when prior to opening up our first gym. And that was one of the main reasons that, that was my greatest learning lesson, because as a 19-year-old, I was going to Temple University full-time now. And I was also running our family business full-time. And thank God. And my dad and I talk about this often, that so many positive things came from the mistake that he made. Again, it brought certain aspects of our family closer together. But I wouldn't be where I am right now if it wasn't for the mistake that he made, because it helped me grow up like that. I was a hippie at heart. I, just toured around seeing Fish concerts. I didn't really care about education. I had no clue what I wanted to do with my life. And that gave me a path. And again, I was put on a path of getting in health and wellness, but I found out what I really loved, which was connecting with people and serving and helping individuals and providing solutions for their problems, which again, much like you, is what I'm doing today. So again, I completely agree that it's important for people to have some sort of experience prior to going to college, because the pressure that you feel on your shoulders to all right, you got 4 years to figure it out. You got 4 years to know exactly what you want to do. There are so many distractions when you're away at college that you need to be in an environment where it's distraction free. And there are a lot of people that number one, maybe they'll take a year off in between, high school and college. They'll get a job, they'll maybe do an internship or work somewhere to get some real life experience, see if it's something they want to do. There's a lot of people that travel, they'll go and they'll travel around for a few months and just kind of experience real world. Because again, once you get into the guts of real life, you put all those things on the back burner. So it's really good to figure out now before it's too late. And again, it took me a long time to figure things out outside of, the health and wellness industry. But as the saying goes, it's better late than never. And I know that you can say the same thing for yourself, because if you wouldn't have been really pushed by your colleagues and now business partner, it wouldn't have led to Dynamico, which is what you're doing today.
Absolutely. And all those experiences you mentioned, whether it's traveling, working, whatever, a lot of the divisiveness and the problems and the hatred we're seeing in our society today is just due out of blatant ignorance. Like, they haven't been exposed to people different than them. So you go out and travel, you go out and explore a career field that, you move to a different part of the country, whatever, you're going to get out of your natural bubble that you've been in and experience life and understand others and their differences. And again, people are acting now out of ignorance in the true sense of the word. They just don't know. If they knew, they might have a better understanding of people who have opposing viewpoints, look different, practice religion differently, whatever the case may be. The more experiences you have, even with your father being incarcerated, no one welcomed that. And, I don't want to sound cliche-ish and say, every failure is an opportunity for growth or whatever. Like, literally everything you've encountered made you who you are. Nobody wants failure. Nobody says, hey, I hope my dad gets thrown in jail when I'm in 19. But if it happens, years later, you'll understand the impact that had on you and how you are the person you are based on that impact.
And I can also attribute the fact, now thinking about it as you brought it up, the three gyms that we had were all in multicultural areas of Philadelphia. And I was exposed at a very young, I was taken out of my regular suburban life bubble where, all my friends were, white and Jewish. And I had, a couple Black friends, a couple Asian friends. So I did have like that mixture growing up. But what helped me most was getting completely out of that bubble, living in downtown Philadelphia, exposed to every aspect of a multicultural city, which Philadelphia is. And it helped me become more relatable. It helped me become more understanding. And realizing that, like, I was in the real world. I was seeing things through the lens that a lot of people don't get to look through, because like you said, the longer you stay in that bubble and the longer that you don't know, the longer that you're never going to know. And I really appreciate, all the people that I've met throughout my career, and they've impacted me. I mean, the relationships that I've built with those people over the 18 years that I spent in the health and wellness industry, they're never going away. And I learned so much from people, and I wouldn't give it up for anything. So as we start to wind down, let's talk about Dynamico for a minute. And again, what would you say if someone was to ask you, what are the big differentiations between what you do at Dynamico compared to other things that are out there? What would you say are I would say the things that really stand out that people should know about what really makes you guys different?
Well, we've got two main focuses of our business. One is the compensation systems. And in essence, we can help, whether you're a small business and it's the CEO president running the HR and running compensation, or you've got HR people, or you've got compensation specialists, but we can make their lives easier. We have a software platform that allows them to be efficient, and it frees up time. It lets them discard spreadsheets, and it makes life easier and less confusing. Through the coaching and mentoring lens, we work with individuals, small groups. I just am now creating an emerging leader network. And I got that idea from a business coach, because it's, holy cow, that's what I experienced in my 40s that really helped me become who I am. So why wouldn't I go out and create a networking experience for emerging leaders. Notice I didn't say young, because there are emerging leaders in their 40s, 50s, and 60s, 70s. There are emerging leaders in their teens, 20s, and 30s. So if you're an emerging leader, I can help you. I'm not going to give you answers. I'm going to expose you to leadership tenets that I hold dear that you could adopt and make your own. For example, take care of your people. You don't have to be me to understand that statement, and how you, if you subscribe to that idea, how you take care of your people, your employees, your coworkers, is going to be different than how I do it, but it's important. So you don't have to be me to understand my tenet, and you can't do it like me, but you should be able to grasp the idea. And that's what we help emerging leaders, also established leaders, because we work with executives, we work with middle level management, we work with all leaders, all people who want to be leaders and want to hone their leadership skills, and help them identify what they do, why they are that person, and then expose them to some ideas, some tenets that are mine, maybe my partner Mike's, maybe some other things upon which we've done research. Here's some ideas, and these are broad enough that you can adopt them and make them your own.
Love that. So before I get to my final question, if someone listening is interested in everything that you're doing, how can one get connected to you? And I know that you said you have a special offer for people if they are interested. Tell them about that.
Yeah, we've got exclusive discounts for listeners of Scott's podcast here. So you could hit me up on LinkedIn. He'll have my contact information in the write-up to this podcast, but I'm Dan Kopp at Dynamico. My email address is dan@dynamicosystems.com. DM me on LinkedIn, contact me via email. Our website's dynamicosystems.com. Contact me. We can start helping you today, harnessing your leadership skills, identifying your skills, saving you time in HR, making an impact on your organization, and just making life better. And we love it. The more people we help, the more we love what we're doing, and the busier we get. And I, at one point in time, thought entrepreneurship is about freeing up time. And no, there's not enough hours in the day. I had a coworker once, or a colleague once, say to me, the good news is, or the bad news is, there's 24 hours in a day. The good news is there's 24 hours in a day. I mean, I love it. If I can help you, contact me, and we've got exclusive discounts for the listeners of this podcast, whether it's through a licensing agreement for our software or a coaching agreement, and we're moving through forward coaching or small group or mentoring, whatever the case may be. So feel free to contact me, and my contact information will be in the bio.
As Dan mentioned, all that information will be in the description of this episode. And I would really encourage those that are intrigued about everything that Dan is doing to reach out to him. I mean, he has my utmost respect and recommendation. He can help and serve you in so many different ways that a simple reach out or a conversation can never hurt. So again, all the information of how to contact Dan, whether it be LinkedIn or website or email, will be listed in the description of this episode. So Dan, final question before we end today's episode. What does success truly mean to you?
I think I sort of touched on it earlier. When I see people with whom I've worked, whether it's in a mentoring, coaching, or somebody who's purchased access to our software and we've helped them implement it, when I see the impact they're having on their organizations and the people they're leading and their coworkers, that is success to me. It's not about my bank account. It's not about where I live, what I drive. It's about seeing the people with whom I've worked positively impact others. I love that stuff. Love it.
It's never really about the money, because the money shows up when the impact is felt. That's my true belief. And the more people that you impact, the better of a life they live, which means a better life you will live. So Dan, thank you so much for coming on to the podcast today. I know my audience is going to love this episode, and it's going to be one that they listen to over and over again, and just appreciate your friendship, everything that you do for all the people that you're working with. So thank you so much again for being here today.
Well, thank you for the opportunity. It was a pleasure, and hit me up if I can ever be of service.
Awesome. So again, everyone, all the information will be in the description of this episode. If you enjoyed the episode, let us know. Spotify, iTunes, iHeartRadio, wherever you're listening to from. Leave a comment, a review. Let us know what you loved. We would love to hear from you. So everyone, please enjoy the rest of your days and I'll talk to you next time. Bye, everyone. Thank you so much again for checking out today's episode. And if you are listening through iTunes, Spotify, wherever you are, please leave me a rating and review. Let me know what you loved, what you would like to see improved, or ideas you have for future episodes. And if you are interested in taking your business to the next level, don't hesitate to go to my website, www.scottaaron.net, where you can schedule a free discovery call with me, where I can learn more about you, your business, what you're struggling with, and how we can work together. And don't forget to check out my wife, Nancy, and mine, our free community on Facebook called LinkedIn Leads for Life. We would love to see you in there. Have a great rest of your day. And thank you, everyone, for your support. Grateful for each and every one of you.